Greetings. Today we are going to be focusing this week on the story of the three men in the fire. And as someone recently said, maybe we should call it the four men in the fire? Question mark. Would that be better? And that's true. Now, to give you some, ways to remember, Daniel, Daniel, and we cite Daniel chapter 3. That you have the three men in the fire. So 3 and 3. And it's later in Daniel chapter 6 where you have Daniel thrown into the lion's den. And so 3 and 3. Remember the three men in chapter 3. Well, this, and I'm going to finger spell for you. Are you ready? The king's name is Nebuchadnezzar. All right. I always sign Nebuchadnezzar and with the Z, Nebuchadnezzar. So Nebuchadnezzar, he was the king ruling there. And you remember that the people of Israel, they had been, their towns, their whole country had been destroyed. They had been captured, brought into captivity. But Daniel and Shadrach, let's finger spell that. Are you ready? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Did you get that? Yeah. Oh no. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And Daniel, they were given high positions. And I would encourage you, go back to read Daniel chapter 1 and 2 of how that happened. That they took those four and they were training them to serve the king. And what happened was they wanted to give them all the variety food from the king's table. And Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, so we can't eat that. And the guard was afraid, but he allowed them to only eat fruits and vegetables, and they were fine. So I'll just read that background of the story. So now you have Nebuchadnezzar. He is the king. He sets up a gold statue. It's 90 foot tall. And he calls all of the people, the rulers, the guys to come together. And he says, when you hear the music, the violins and the flutes and the blah, 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 all these, the stringed, when you hear the music, all the people bow down and worship this gold statue. So that's what they did. They played the music. But there were some of the people who studied the stars. When that happened, they noticed there were three men. Those three didn't bow down. And they went and told the king, "Hey, king, there are these people from Israel. They are Jewish themselves, and they do not bow down. In fact, oh, they made them sound bad. They ignore you." Ooh, the king was not happy. He was mad, all right? Because why? He had commanded that anyone who does not bow down and worship, what's going to happen to them? They're going to be taken and thrown into a furnace, into a fire. Ooh. And so the king, he was mad, and he called the three, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, to come. And the king says, "Hey, why didn't you obey and bow down?" And he says, "I'm going to give you another chance." And the three of them said, "O king, you can. And you can throw us into the fire. But our God, he can save us. But even if he decides not to save us, we're not going to bow down and worship your idol." Oh my gosh. Oh, he was so mad. He was so mad. He was, okay. And when the music played, they refused to bow down. So the king commanded that fire to be seven times more hot. And he commanded that the strong soldiers come and bound up the three. And they made it so hot, the people, the soldiers, when they were putting it and making it hot, they died. So they grabbed the three of them and they threw them in there. And the king, he was mad. He was what? Hey! We threw three in there. Now there's four, and they're walking. Hey! Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, come on out! And it says those came out. None of their clothes, their turbans, their robe, nothing was burned. They didn't even smell like smoke. And the king, wow, and he admitted, and he said, your God is the true God. And now King Nebuchadnezzar commanded that all of the people, that no one could say bad things against their God, against the true God. And he said, anyone who says bad against their God will be cut up and into pieces, and their houses that will be burned up. Woo! And the king even gave them more honor. See, this whole story, like, wow, you and I are impressed when you study this. See how to set it up. And the king would never, but learn the background. Learn what happened, how Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their trust did not start here. Their trust already started way back when they were captured and brought. If you and I, if our country was destroyed and we were brought into captivity, a lot of people, what they would do? They would find God. But they didn't. They stayed faithful with God. And they started and they obeyed him from the beginning all the way through. So this was just an example that they were willing to die for their faith. Back there, they were willing to die for their faith. And again, they were willing to die for their faith. And you see with Daniel later on, willing to die for his relationship with the true God. Wow! So, as you study this story, look at this. But the names, fingerspell once, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But realize what's happening in this story. How can you convey to your people that same faith? Are we willing to die for our faith? I pray you and I, we have the same. Our God, he can save us. He can. But even if he doesn't, we're not going to follow you. Because someday, we know we get to celebrate in heaven. All right, have fun with these stories. Put them all together again. Don't get stuck on the Sunday school level. Get them more full, robust in your telling. All right, have fun. Thanks for being on this journey with us.